Okay, I know when it gets quiet, it's about ready to go. So welcome everyone to our regular council meeting of the Delray Oak City Council. It's great to see everyone. Um, can I have roll call, please?
Councilmember Uy,
Present.
Councilmember Halleck,
Present.
Councilmember Shirley,
Here.
Councilmember Berger,
Here.
Mayor Donaldson.
Here, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right, first item is public comment. General public comment must deal with matters subject to the jurisdiction of the city and the council that are not on the agenda. Anyone wishing to address the city council on matters not appearing on the agenda may do so now. There'll be a time limit of no more than 3 minutes per speaker. Public comment is now open.
Hello. Okay. Um, Either good afternoon or good evening, whatever it is appropriate, Mayor and the City Council. My name is Ahmad Amadi and I reside in Portola Drive. I serve as the Vice President of the Monterey Bridge Club. About 6 months ago, I came before you, you with a proposal and a hopeful vision. At that time, there is a possibility of land being available and respectively urge the council to consider the creation of a community center, one that could serve as a hub for intellectual engagement, social connections, and lifelong learning. I also shared with the council that we have a potential builder and also we have some funds available that we can use to produce such a facility. Unfortunately, that request was tabled at that time. And since then, has been no further action or discussion on the agenda by the city. In the absence of this progress, our board of directors made a practical decision, and Monterey Bridge Club, in association with Monterey Educational Fund, we made a commitment to renew our lease for 5 years at the cost of $250,000. While this ensures continuity of our members, it also represents a missed opportunity, both for the city and us, then both for our organization and for a broad community. I am here today not to revisit the past, but to look forward for the future. If the council chooses to revisit the idea of establishing a community center, a space that could accommodate activity such as chess, bridge, educational program, and other community building initiative, we would welcome the opportunity to be part of that effort. Monterey Bridge Club, in association with Monterey Bridge Educational Fund, would be willing to engage and assist in planning and supporting such a project when our current lease ends at 2030. So it is 5 years from now. The community center is not mere a building. It is an investment in connectivity, in mental engagement, and the well-being of residents of all age. I respectfully encourage the council to keep this vision alive and consider placing it back on the agenda on the future times. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Ahmed.
Any questions? Thank you.
Okay, are there any other public comments? Okay, seeing none, I'll move on to the next item, which is a proclamation, and it is for American Red Cross Month. And it reads, Whereas in March, we celebrate American Red Cross Month by honoring our neighbors who make its humanitarian mission possible in Delray Oaks. Every day, their acts of kindness change lives, bringing relief, comfort, and hope when help can't wait. This compassionate spirit runs deep in our community, just as it has for 145 years through the American Red Cross. The contributions of local Red Cross volunteers give hope to the most vulnerable in their darkest hours. Volunteers help families affected by home fires by addressing urgent needs like food and lodging, as well as providing recovery support. In addition, they installed smoke alarms, collected blood donations, provided first aid and CPR training, and assisted families of our armed forces. These collective efforts are a powerful reminder that the strength of our community lies in our shared commitment to one another. Therefore, I, Scott Donaldson, Mayor of Delray Oaks, do hereby proclaim March 2026 as Red Cross Month. And what I would like to do is have Chief Berkwin come forward, and I'm going to present this proclamation to him. Okay.
Much, Mayor. I'll just use that thing over there. Thank you so much. So why is Chris standing in front of you? A couple years ago, I was at a victims memorial at the DA's office. They do one every year, and I was approached by Patsy, who works for the Red Cross. She's very tenacious, wonderful lady, and spoke also with a local chief who would have been on the Red Cross board before, and I decided to take the plunge. So in the last 2 years, I have been a part of the Central Coast Red Cross on their board. I just need to let people know, because you hear about boards, there's different kind of boards. The kind of boards where they fly you places and give you money and send you on vacation and give you cool things, and there's other kind of boards where that does not happen, and I'm on that second kind of board. We actually, a part of us being on the board, we give of ourselves to the Red Cross. It's not required, but strongly suggested. So I wanted to do that for myself. This is not a part of my job duties as the chief. Having said that, we interact a lot with the Red Cross, and I thought having a seat with someone intimate with Delray Oaks would be nice. So that's where we stand. I'm going to read something really quickly. So each March, we celebrate our Red Cross commitment to helping individuals and families in need. On someone's darkest day, we strive to be the beacon of hope, responding to disasters, delivering life-saving blood, teaching essential skills, supporting military families, and our international neighbors. And beyond the large-scale events you see on TV, we are here in the community every day helping families recover after home fires and other small-scale emergencies. Some of you have heard about the large fire in Monterey on Casanova. 150 people displaced. Red Cross was there. In recent years, our communities have felt the real impacts of atmospheric rivers. These storms remind us how important it is to be prepared and to strengthen the partnership that supports our community. Our community adaptation program, CAP, works with trusted hyperlocal organizations across Monterey County to support health, housing stability, and hunger relief. In just a year and a half, CAP has built more than a dozen partnerships and invested in projects that keep families housed, maintain essential services, build community-led resilience. We also serve year-round thanks to our dedicated volunteer donors and supporters like some of you in the audience here tonight. And the volunteers really are the unsung heroes. The board members meet monthly. We serve our purpose, but it's the people that get the call middle of the night. You're going to Texas, you're going to Hawaii. You're going to be away from your family for 2-3 weeks. Those are the people that really makes it work. Some of those areas are blood services that they wanted me to highlight. Someone in the US needs blood every 2 seconds. It's a lot. Please visit redcrossblood.org to make a donation. Service to the armed forces. We've supported military families since our founding, including new pet therapy program with the local VA. International services are part of the world's largest humanitarian network. Climate and sustainability. We're preparing for climate-driven emergencies while cutting emissions, reducing waste, lowering water use. I'm proud to share that our Central Coast chapter is green business certified. Disaster response and volunteers, more than 600,000 volunteers respond at any hour to help people in crisis. And we'd love to have you join us. So if there's anybody interested in not seeing your family for a couple of weeks and being somewhere far away, sometimes you need that. Or just want to help the blood donation deal or whatever. It's good. There's good people. That's the best thing about it. I'm also a Rotarian. I'm not pretending to solve all the world's problems, but I like meeting good people, and that's kind of what I like about the Red Cross as well. So that's what I have to say to you folks. It's very exciting. I'm pleased to accept this on behalf of the Red Cross, and I'll make sure that they receive it post haste.
Chris, thank you so much. And I'm going to have you stay up here because our next item is one of my favorite things, and that's swearing in one of our new reserve officers. So, Chief, I'll let you continue to go. You're on a roll.
I have to use a microphone? Okay. So Mayor said it's one of his favorite things. It's also one of my favorite things. Just in case you were wondering, both born in 1966, both born in November. Difference between guy takes care of himself and a guy that needs to take more care of himself. That's what this looks like right here. Get a picture. Give it to your kids. Let them know that they need to start taking care of themselves better. So Guy is not new to law enforcement. He's going to join us as a reserve, but he spent 30 years with the Los Angeles Police Department. He actually graduated from the academy in February 1994. He's worked in various divisions. So in Los Angeles, kind of like New York, where they have precincts, but they have different areas, different departments. And there's one department called 77th or division, we'll call it a division. And so he's worked narcotics, bicycle patrol, gang unit. And then eventually he was assigned to the Metropolitan Division, which included various crime apprehension details, selected warrant operations, and dignitary protection details. During his 3 decades with LAPD, he well-deservedly earned 3 Medals of Valor. Don't know how, what you know about Medals of Valor. They don't give them out normally. And Guy would know better. I haven't talked to him about it, but it's probably a pretty bad day happening when one of those medals come your way. So anyway, he was with LAPD SWAT for 20 years. He's not here to be Delray Oak SWAT. He's done his time. I'm not going to make him do anything like that. What he can do for us, though, is mentor our young officers, keep himself busy, engaged in law enforcement. It's a great, great job, and I can imagine I'm reaching the end of my time, and someday I'll have to stop doing it. This is a way for Guy to still help out our community, help out our younger officers. It's certainly not about the paycheck for him. It's about being involved. So we really appreciate him being here. He comes to us from Roger Guzman, who's brought us a few people from LAPD. LA has a few guys up here, a handful, including our sheriff, including the chief of Greenfield, all good people. So anyway, Guy, I'm going to swear you in now. This is your last chance. He does, yeah, you already got the uniform. All right, if you could please raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I, Guy Dobine,
I, Guy Devine,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or evasion,
and that I will well
and I will well
and faithfully
and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
upon which I'm about to enter.
which I'm about to.
Thanks, sir. So before I let that guy speak, the stories. Our sheriff just came to visit. Sheriff Nieto and Guy know each other from LAPD. And you don't mind if I tell the story I texted you? Okay. So while they were both working for LAPD, as one might when living in Los Angeles, you are on television shows. That's just how it works. You live in LA, you're on television shows. And so the very first time I said, "Guy, do you know Tina Nieto? You know, she's our sheriff." "Yeah, I know her. In fact, the first time I met her was on the set of Southland, a cop TV show several years ago." Anyway, these guys are actors, they're thespians. I did not know that. But when I called the sheriff this morning, I hope that she could make it. I'm so thankful that you're here. Would you like to say something?
Well, yeah, I guess I'm here on the shore, and we always say something, and I don't need a mic, so.
Okay.
So, welcome to the team. We are LAPD is trying to take over this area. So, I'm retired in San Jose, so thank you for that.
I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, we'll get one right after. This thing's still on. Guy, would you like to say a few words? It's up to you. You don't have to use the mic.
Sure. Well, thank you for having me, Chief. I retired from LAPD 30 years ago, and the second day, Roger Guzman called and he said, "Hey, eventually I took his call, and
I did the same thing. I hang up on him too.
me too. Eventually I took his call, we talked about it, and I decided I wanted to continue being law enforcement. Something not as large as a capacity as LAPD, but still in a capacity where I'm serving a lot of communities. Glad to be here. It's beautiful up here. If I live closer, I'd be up here working more, but sure. Thanks for that.
Oh, thank you very much, sir. You know, you're like a
Yes, yes. And we have a sandwich.
we missed the part. The guy that eats well and Bert would be the guy that's.
Thank you.
Well, Guy, before you leave, I just wanted to say congratulations on behalf of the entire city council and welcome to Delray Oaks. I know the pace is going to be a lot slower and less high adventure than what you've dealt with in LA. And I know you bring a wealth of knowledge and, you know, the chief touched on it. Your mentorship to our younger officers, I'm sure will be much appreciated. And it also says a lot, Sheriff Nieto, thank you for being here. That, oh, no worries. The fact that no, the fact that you took the time to be here really says a lot. Thanks, Tina, for being here. And once again, welcome.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Okay, next up, we have a community human services update on the Noche or the Casa de Noche Buena and Schumann Heart House. So please come on up.
Hello, good evening.
Hello.
Thanks for allowing us the time to be here.
Sir, if you could step up to the mic
yes.
so that folks can hear you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, City Council, for allowing us to be here. My name is Sean Stone. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Community Human Services. Tonight, Stacy Alziebler-Perkins is presenting with me, and Stacy is the Executive Director of Gathering for Women. We are presenting on two programs that we operate. Casa de Noche Buena, which we operate in partnership, and Schumann Heart House, which Community Human Services operates independently. So tonight we are discussing some of the funding shortfalls and potential program impacts that these programs are facing. And we like to acknowledge that many providers who support the homeless population are facing similar funding shortfalls, political climate, funding for social services in general is under a lot of pressure. So in the most recent year or so, there's been much more pressures that we're facing, and these are leading to what is being called a fiscal cliff. Next.
So as you may know, Casa de Noche Buena and Schumann Heart House are both shelters for women, single women, and families with children. They hold about 35 beds in total, and the typical stay is about 6 months. It depends on if they're following along with the program. The annual number served is around 80, about 25 women and 15 families. And the whole goal is to stabilize them and transition them into permanent housing as soon as possible and get them self-sufficiency, be able to pay their own rent and stay in the homes that they find. And of course, increase their well-being and become part of our community, become part of our community. Both programs support basic needs, so that's meals, showers, laundry facilities, clothing. They each have their own bed and they have a place to put all of their belongings, which is a really big deal if you're carrying all of your things when you're out on the streets. It's housing focused, so you've got case management, you've got housing navigation, you've got rapid rehousing, financial assistance if that's needed, which in most cases it is. And then of course, stability supports, which has to do with mental health, any addiction problems, and support, getting help with that, finding employment, and financial planning as well.
So for both of these programs, again, Casa Noche Buena is located in Seaside, Schumann Heart House is located in Monterey. These are programs that, again, provide case management, and the goal is to increase individual and family self-sufficiency so that they can be more stable on their own. The statewide benchmark for exits to permanent housing is around 23%. Both Casa de Noche Buena and Schumann Heart House are over 50% exits to permanent housing, which is exceptional. And on top of that, at Casa, we have an additional 24% to temporary housing, which is what we consider a positive exit because it's not returning back to homelessness. And at Schumann, 17%. So on average, around 75% exits for a positive exit. So really exceptional outcomes for both of these programs. Next slide.
So Casa Noche Buenas started almost exactly 5 years ago, actually in January, 5 years ago. And it was created through $1.3 million of HEAP funding, some additional community support. And it was a county-owned modular building. We're paying $1 a year for it over 10 years. And to my surprise, when I started a little bit before I arrived on the scene, but we actually went in and refurbished the whole thing and smashed everything. And I walked in and had to wear a hard hat and thought, oh my gosh, what are we doing? But now it's a beautiful facility. And Schumann Hart House was opened about 2 years ago now. And it was mostly with private philanthropy. And it's located, as Sean said, in Monterey. Casa Noche Buena is in Seaside, just around the corner.
So for sustaining these shelter beds, each of these programs, it costs about $1.2 million a year each. For the Casa Noche Buena, both Gathering for Women and Schumann Hart House set up a special purpose fund through the Community Foundation for community fundraising. And both programs apply for government grants, including HAP, ESG, CDBG, and again, private philanthropy. And something that's worth mentioning is that in previous years, roughly speaking, each of these programs about 70% of the operating costs were funded by these government grants, which is reduced significantly. So the current and near-term funding gap, again, each program costs about $1.2 million a year each. For this upcoming fiscal year, Casa Noche Buena's plan to unfortunately run a deficit of about $270,000. Schumann Hart House, $650,000. The following fiscal year, $650,000. Schumann, $900,000. In fiscal year 28-29, $700,000 for Casa Noche Buena. Schumann Hart House, $960,000. And fiscal year 29-30, Casa Noche Buena will run a $760,000 deficit, and Schumann just over 1 million. So as you can see, again, without this government funding, the gap is quite significant. So key drivers of the gap are expending all HAP and City of Monterey PHLA funding, which will be fully depleted. And then the following year, this upcoming year, our Casa Noche Buena Special Purpose Fund, which is about $340,000, will be fully expended. HAP 3, HAP 4, and all of deferred revenue that we've accrued for Schumann Hart House will be depleted as well. So without these funding streams, this is the beginning of the structural deficit, and for these two programs, the fiscal cliff.
And as Sean mentioned, we very well are aware that we are not the only ones. There was a program that closed in the fall. There's another program that's closing in Salinas in, I believe, at the end of April. And so we're not the only ones facing this. And yet we know that these programs work, and we want to prevent them from closing. The need just continues to grow. We've seen in January, we saw more than 30 women in our day center. And as was mentioned earlier, the Casanova fire, now we have more individuals in our community that are homeless and have nowhere to go. They're seniors, and some of them are disabled. And so this is a need that we really need to figure out. One of the reasons why we've come to you is to make sure that everyone's aware that we're facing this issue, and our objectives are to avoid any service reduction, any shelter closure, or at least phased reductions as we have to. And without any additional funding, we will have to reduce services or capacity. We might have to eliminate case management, which means it will be harder for them to get off the streets. We might have to convert just to an overnight program rather than a program where they can stay for a period of time and get the help that they need, or partial or full program closure. And we're not expecting you to help us fix this. We're just asking that if you have any ideas of partnerships or grants we can apply for, or anything that you can think of to help us with this, we would be very grateful for that.
So in conclusion, as Stacy mentioned, this is a system-wide concern. You know, these these types of programs, there are emergency shelters. There are facilities that are just a bed where somebody checks in at 7 p.m. and checks out at 7 a.m. But this is something more comprehensive. And there was a lot of time and a lot of money fundraised by the community, private grants, government grants. So much time and money has been set up to establish programs in the hopes that they work, and they do very well. These programs are very unique. Not a lot of programs have these type of outcomes, so we're very proud of it. But this is definitely a concern that we're worried about, because if there are reductions in these type of services, there is a ripple effect. There's increased costs for emergency services. There's more crisis intervention. There's more hospital visits. So there's just there's kind of a ripple effect, and in terms of prevention dollars and setting up programs that actually work and help people become more self-sufficient and not reliant on these programs is the purpose. So it's a scary thing, but again, we just wanted to be able to have an opportunity, so we appreciate the time to be able to present. And if there are any ideas or opportunities, partnerships, we are open to that.
All right, thank you so much for your presentation. I'll start with the council first, if there are any questions or comments, and I'll start with our CHS representative, Councilmember Howe.
Thank you, Mayor Donaldson. Thank you for appearing tonight, Mr. Stone. Mr. Stone is far too modest, although technically right now, currently, he is the Chief Operations Officer for Community Human Services. He actually is soon to be onboarded with the retirement of our previous CEO, 30-year tenure. He will be our new CEO and representing Community Human Services oh so very well. He has, there's an element of prudence and foresight, and above and beyond, what's most necessary is a level of compassion for the underserved in our community. He's a local boy from Carmel Valley, and I'm proud to call him a friend, and it's a pleasure to work with him on the very important work that we do. I'll yield most of my time. I'm glad again that you came tonight to implore this council and other cities to come up with new creative ideas on how we can generate additional funding in this practically inevitable time of financial cliff, as he stated. I know we're not taking any action tonight, but just for the sake of discussion, kind of like to throw it out there that some of the ideas that have been tossed around are implementing whatever each city has to offer. We're very small, but our TOT, our transient occupancy tax, is one of our revenue streams, and we have flexibility to increase that at some point in the future. And I would like to suggest and perhaps direct the council, my fellow council members, to thinking of that as a useful way to contribute to this necessity. So, thank you again for both of you showing up tonight. Thanks for your time.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Shirley.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. You mentioned the HAP funding. I wasn't familiar with that acronym and was wondering if you can explain that.
Homeless, oh God,
Homeless,
Sorry. I mean,
homeless
like
housing assistance program.
is that
distance and
state funding?
protection.
There is, what was that?
Is that state funding or like federal?
Federal.
Federal funding. Okay. So in terms of your funding, if I was gonna, look at all of it, what percentage is coming from the federal? What percent is coming from the state? What percentage is coming from grants from other places?
Most is federal, but it does trickle through the state. For
Okay.
example, even Medi-Cal service programs that we have, Community Human Services operates mental health and substance abuse programs. Medi-Cal dollars are matched from the county, and they're matched to the state. So oftentimes there is a blending of funds, and even if something comes through the feds, goes down to the state, then is disseminated through different counties. We're part of, both of our organizations are a part of the local continuum of care, the Coalition Homeless Service Providers. They facilitate all grant applications and are the bottleneck to these type of funds. So Simple answer for ESG funds or if I was to split it between, I'd probably say the majority are trickle down federally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also those funds have been, I think, almost split in half this year and are expected to continue to
Right.
decrease.
Mm,
And there's some of the policies are moving away from the kind of support of this type of housing and more emergency shelters and or permanent housing, which you need that bridge in between to go from living on the streets for 3 years into a housing situation to be able to keep it. And so that's why one of the reasons why this program is so important.
and then I'm wondering, how much do you get from jurisdiction? Do you get support now from different jurisdictions that you serve?
Can I go?
We were getting $1 per capita. I don't think we did last year for most of the
A
cities.
few years ago, yeah. And we do have funds that, like the County of Monterey participates by providing, I believe, $100,000 a year to Casa Noche Buena, $100,000 a year to Schumann Hart House. In the city of Monterey, I believe, $50,000. And so all of these numbers do, it does take all those, what we hope are reoccurring or possibly reoccurring dollars into consideration. So all of those deficits take those into account as well.
But additionally, most cities, I'm not aware of Delray Oaks, I apologize, but most cities are struggling as well. So it's that added dimension of not being able to have the same amount of funds that were coming
Right.
prior.
Well, thank you again for all of your work. Really, really deeply appreciate it. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Berger?
Thank you, Mayor. I thank you, pardon me, I'm sorry. Thank you for coming up and speaking with us tonight and sharing. I've been to one of the meetings recently. Congratulations. When I went to the meeting, I was really impressed with just the enthusiasm and the structure and the dedication. And I know Councilmember Halleck is absolutely 100% committed and believing in this. I know this is just a bunch of words. I truly wish I could reach into my pocket and solve the problems. Unfortunately, I don't have the means to do anything like that. I'm taking very much to heart everything you said. I'm incredibly impressed. The dedication to helping strangers. We don't do that enough. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right, Councilmember Uy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Sean and Stacy, for coming over to educate us regarding this challenge that your organization is dealing with right now. I just have a question regarding like if funding will be reduced. What other problems might that create later, especially for hospitals, for police, and also for local governments that we should be concerned of?
So that's similar to the ripple effect I was mentioning, but many of the clients that we work with have substance use disorders, have mental health issues, and there are many clients who don't, and it's a matter of bad circumstances or choices. And this happens every time during intake with any of our programs, but specifically Schumann Hart House and Casa Noche Buena. When somebody comes in day one, we sit down with them and work on all the areas, identifying all the areas that led them to becoming homeless. So many of it is the substance abuse issues, getting them referrals, connections to programs. Our agency has some outpatient drug treatment programs, outpatient therapy, residential drug treatment programs, a variety of services to help address what might be the side effect of them becoming homeless. So just those are things that we work on when they first come in. There's other areas, their resume, their benefits, what type of health care they have. So without these type of interventions to meet with a client, there's a higher likelihood that their mental health issues get worse. Their substance abuse issues get worse. You know, if there are relationship issues and they were living with family, that's a very quick way to eliminate homelessness is reunifying with family. So if there are relationship issues, mental health issues, or even the substance abuse taking place at the home, which is what led them to becoming homeless or being out of the house, now without these type of interventions, reunifying doesn't exist. So the same thing goes with if they were to have, you know, severe substance use disorders, you know, undiagnosed, no treatment. There's an opportunity for us to be able to provide those linkages, those referrals, so that those issues can be mitigated, so that they can work on essentially ways to get out of homelessness.
I think I'd like to add to that, that the more someone is on the street, the more likely they are to have an addiction problem or a mental health issue because of the stress of living on the street and trying to sleep, particularly for women, trying to sleep and, you know, sleep during the day because that's when they feel safe, and then to stay awake all night. And so it's just this cascading effect of continual problems. And we often find that they end up in the hospital, which is a huge expense to taxpayers, because now that's the only really the place that they can go. And so that's an additional thing that we see, that they'll go to the hospital for a couple days just to have a warm bed when it's cold out or rainy out, or, you know, it is a drain on the city, and you'll see more people on the streets for sure.
Thank you so much for your insights. And I guess, how can we contact you? Was it in one of your slides, like how to contact you if ever? I'm gonna think this over, and for sure you're asking us for our ideas, and I'll think more of, you know. So do you have any other creative ideas right now that would inspire me to think of what other funding, how can we really like get additional funding, and yeah, and also other really like creative strategy, probably a novel strategies that we can implement.
Well, I wish I had a quick answer. We probably wouldn't have to present at all of the cities and mention the debacle we're in. But there are some potential opportunities. With every HAP round, as mentioned, there's large sums of money that are available. Organizations apply, and based on a litany of criteria, they're eligible for those dollars. Stacy was mentioning that for HAP round 5, it's half of what 4 was. HAP round 6 will be half of what 5 was. We don't know if there will be a HAP 7, but throughout the normal course of business, there are some other unspent funds, not from us or our organizations, but HAP $1, HAP $2, that do have an expiration date in terms of its expenditure, or else it will be returned to the state. So there are ideas that we're trying to explore to see if there are ways we can utilize these dollars, because we have a good history of credible, legitimate, great outcome services. So we fit the criteria for that. So there are elements like that that come up periodically, but those are not reliable. Those aren't dependable. And if there was a easier way to, for lack of a better term, rely on other organizations having unspent dollars, we could factor that in. But again, we don't even know that dollar amount. So
Just to add to that, while Sean was talking, I was thinking about, they did do some creative funding through the Medi-Cal program. Medi-Cal, right?
emergency healthcare worker or community health workers and ECMs. Yeah.
Emergency.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So organizations could get some funding because, of course, if you have a roof over your head, you're more likely to be healthy. If you don't have that, you're less likely to be healthy. And so they were matching organizations with funding that they could pay for their case managers. Since then, they've sort of pulled back on that. They're not doing that as much anymore, particularly for organizations who weren't already involved in that. I know CHS was. We were not. And so that's a very creative way of finding funding. And TOT, of course, I know the city of Sand City was talking about maybe some police funding, and not quite clear what they were talking about, but I think there's availability out there. And sadly, in the case of Monterey, when one organization who had funding closed, we both received some of their funding. So that's also a possibility. We certainly don't want to advocate for an organization to not exist, but if that funding is available, then
Yeah, the ECM and CHW billables unfortunately do not create enough revenue to sustain programs like this. These programs are comprehensive. There's a lot of involvement, which is essentially to get somebody out of homelessness, but it does provide some revenue to possibly have some emergency type services. But that's the unique thing about these programs. They're meant to get people out of homelessness versus a safe bed for one night.
So thank
Good
you.
question.
Yeah, thank you, Sean and Stacy, from the bottom of my heart. And I'm gonna reach out to you by next week. And if
Sounds
ever-
great.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Mr. Mayor, that's all.
Thank you. Have you thought about engaging the private sector? I'm just thinking about an organization like Rancho Cielo, for example. And I know it's different programs and services, but both organizations are focused on vulnerable populations. So has that been something that you've taken a look at or would plan to take a look at?
Absolutely. We have run various funding campaigns. It was quite an endeavor to have our capital campaign for Schumann Hart House, generating essentially the goal was 2 years of operating costs. These partnerships with private organizations or private businesses is a beautiful thing. They're difficult to establish. There are a lot of nonprofits that are vying for these dollars. Monterey County has a pretty high density of nonprofits across a variety of services, not just social services or healthcare, but across the board. So it's something we've explored. It's challenging. It's really, really challenging and takes a lot of time.
Okay.
It's a great idea.
Okay, thank you again for your presentation. I'll take it out to the public. Are there any public comments or questions? Okay, seeing none. Thank you once again. Really appreciate it.
Thank you all for the opportunity.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, next up on the agenda is Montage Health System, presentation from the president and CEO.
Good evening, Mayor Donaldson and members of the council. Thank you for the opportunity to spend a few minutes with you today. This month, it marks my 1-year anniversary with Montage Health and in this community, and I've spent much of that year listening to folks, listening to caregivers, to patients, and to members of the community. And so today, I'd like to just formally introduce myself, share a short update about your local healthcare system, and reinforce that Montage Health is committed to being a community partner, not just a healthcare provider. Next slide, if you could. To give you a brief background on me and what brought me to Montage Health, I'm a physician by background. I practiced for 18 years after I finished my training in Fredericksburg, Virginia, as an interventional radiologist. About 10 years ago, I got the opportunity to move into healthcare administration. And for 10 years, I led Mary Washington Healthcare, which is a not-for-profit, community-based healthcare system in Fredericksburg, Virginia. Like Montage Health, it was independent, it was locally governed and deeply rooted in its region for more than a century. And that matters to me because community-based, not-for-profit healthcare means that decisions are made here locally. It means that our resources are reinvested right here in our community. And it means we're accountable first and foremost to the people we serve, not to shareholders or to distant corporate interests. And next slide. That model, it's something that I deeply believe in. It's one of the reasons why I choose to come here to the Monterey Peninsula and chose to join Montage Health. So today, I'd like to focus on 3 issues that matter to all of us. 1, access to care. Number 2, ensuring that this remains a thriving place for people to live and work. And 3, working together for the benefit of our community. So next slide. First, I'd like to talk a little bit about access to care. It's one of the most important issues that I've heard about when joining the community, and it's a priority for us at Montage Health. Today, we operate in more than 20 locations across the Monterey Peninsula. That includes community hospital, of course, but it also includes primary, specialty, and urgent care offices. which are helping people stay well and hopefully in a place where they don't need hospital care in the first place. Our Montage Medical Group now includes over 110 physicians and advanced practice providers. And we have offices in Marina, Carmel, and Monterey, including just down the road from you here in Ryan Ranch. Last year, we provided more than 230,000 patient visits in our outpatient physician offices. Our MOGO urgent care centers in Marina, Carmel, and Monterey, they saw nearly 50,000 visits in 2025. That gives residents here in our community that have minor injuries and illnesses a chance to access the healthcare system at a lower cost than what a typical emergency room visit would charge. And most recently, when two orthopedic practices in our community, Monterey Spine and Joint here in Ryan Ranch and the Peninsula Sport Physical Therapy Center in Carmel were at risk for closing, we stepped in and we created Montage Orthopedics and Sport Medicine, which is helping ensure that more than 120,000 patient visits each year can continue without disruption. Most importantly, also the staff at those locations were offered the opportunity to stay in their roles, supporting continuity for our patients and stability for our local healthcare workforce. And we know access to care remains a real challenge. We hear that often. It's not just here locally, but access is an issue across the country. And there's more work to do ahead, but we remain committed to doing that work for the people that live and work here in our community. Next slide. I also want to briefly highlight a new advancement in care that we brought to Monterey County for the first time, and that's our new thrombectomy program for stroke care. When someone is having a severe stroke, minutes matter. And historically, patients that have had the most severe strokes have often needed to be transferred out of our area to receive state-of-the-art level care where they can remove the clot from the brain. And that wasted precious time. And so through a partnership with the University of California, San Francisco, Montage Health is now able to provide that late life-saving therapy right here locally at community hospital. So patients can get the right care at the right time, closer to home. We are the first and the only hospital in Monterey County to offer this level of care. This is not something that you typically see in smaller community hospitals. You typically only see it in large academic health systems, and we're proud to be able to bring this here to our community. This picture is a photograph of one of our biplane fluoroscopic hybrid ORs where these procedures are performed, largely enabled with the philanthropic generosity of members of this community. Next slide. The second issue I want to talk a little about is workforce and economic vitality. We're one of the largest employers here on the Monterey Peninsula, and we understand the realities of recruiting and retaining professionals in our high cost of living region. And that's why we're focused on building talent from within our own community. So through our Grow Your Own programs, we provide high school and college students with pathways into healthcare careers. In 2025 alone, we provided more than $1 million in scholarships to local students. We're also partnering with MPC and CSUMB to strengthen our local nursing pipeline, including our recent $15 million investment to establish the Montage Health Helen Bazuki School of Nursing at CSUMB and expand the number of registered nurses that will have bachelor's degrees entering our workforce. In addition, we've launched a clinical careers program that allows select Montage Health employees to return to school full-time while they continue to receive their pay and benefits to train for critical, hard-to-fill clinical roles that we have needed right here within our healthcare system. So these efforts not only are about meeting our local healthcare needs, they're about creating a stable career opportunities, strengthening our local workforce, and supporting the long-term health and resilience of our community. Next slide. And of course, I know we all care about affordable housing. To address housing pressures, we've implemented a home loan assistance program for our staff, helping make home ownership more attainable and supporting long-term workforce stability. This is a picture of one of our team members with her family celebrating their home purchase in Monterey County with the help of the program. You can see Meg's daughter. At the moment the picture was taken, she doesn't look too thrilled, but I can tell you that she is very happy with the new home that her family lives in. Next slide. And I'll close with this. Montage Health is here for the long term. We are locally governed, we are nonprofit, and we are deeply invested in the well-being of this community. If there are any opportunities for us to collaborate, whether that's around access, workforce development, senior services, emergency preparedness, or any emerging needs that you see, I want you to know that my door is open. We view our role as a partner in the overall health of Delray Oaks, and I look forward to building a strong working relationship with each one of you. And so thank you again for your time. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have for me.
All right, thank you, Mike. I'm going to start once again with Councilmember Howlett.
Thank you, Mayor Donaldson. Thanks for joining us tonight, Mr. McDermott. Thank you for the presentation. It was very informative. You know, a lot of us locally, we may not know what Montage is all about. We've always had Chomp, and we've seen you come in over the last, well, many years, several years. But I can't wait to share what I know now with members of my community immediately and regionally as to all of the advancements that you're introducing. And I really appreciate the somewhat vertically integrated and keeping the pipeline flowing, as you mentioned, just in so many ways that you emphasize that takes care of by way of our community's healthcare system and promotes longevity and sustainability for Peninsula residents,
And thank you.
regional really. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Councilmember Shirley.
Thank you, Dr. McDermott.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you. I'm
Nice to
happy
meet
you're
you.
here. I'll start off with a compliment. I recently had to take a friend to your emergency care at Chomp. It's been years since I've been there, and everyone was amazing, just wonderful. So I really truly felt cared for, even though I wasn't the one getting the care. I was, assisting. So I appreciated that effort.
Thank you.
I will say, within my circle of friends, if any of us need to find a doctor, we sort of clinch up and go, oh. So I'm happy to see that you're focused on access. I know wait times to get into doctors are very long, and I'm sure you're aware of that, and I'm sure that you're working on that and helping to keep those doctors here. So providing that workforce, support, I really appreciate, because it is hard when you need that care, and you can't. I've been recently, I felt like a permanent resident at your orthopedic and sports medicine, and if my care stopped and I had to reschedule, it would be months before I could get in again. So I know you've probably heard this, so as long as you can kind of keep working on that access of care, I think it would be really, really important. I hadn't known about the new stroke assistance that you have, so that's really great to hear. I love that we have that. Oftentimes I feel like we are sort of rural in our access to healthcare, and to know that that's here is really good. So I appreciate you taking the time to come here to let us know more, and thank you
Yeah.
for your work.
Just a couple of comments, sir, because it ties in a little bit. You mentioned the name from Chomp to Montage Health and the growth of our medical group as we try to solve the access to care issue. That change of name from Chomp to Montage Health is largely because we moved away from being just a hospital to more of an integrated delivery system here in our community. And so we had to start a medical group where we could have doctors be employed through that medical group and recruit them here to our community and solve that. So they're not part of the hospital. They form what we have Montage Medical Group, and our urgent care centers also are not part of the hospital. They're a separate company. And so when you start to put all of those things under an umbrella, you move away from just being Chomp, a community hospital, to Montage Health, all these other entities, to have an integrated delivery system. Our medical group has grown from 4 providers just a decade ago to over 110 today, and we expect that growth to continue into the future as we help to try and solve the access to care issue. It is a real legitimate issue. And one of the things that I've been struck about too, having had the opportunity to join the team over the past year, is the incredible connection that our team has with the community and the community has with Chomp. right? This is a deep connection interwoven here in the community that I don't think is typical. And also, there's a lot of programs that we have at CHOMP where we really punch above our weight for the size of our hospital. That thrombectomy program is just one of them, but our structural heart program, our robotics program, there's lots of things that happen within our small 280-bed hospital at CHOMP that typically you would only see in larger academic centers. So this community is really fortunate to have a hospital and a health system that has the level of services that it has for the size of our community. It's something that I think is really, we should all be proud of.
Thank you.
All right. Vice Mayor Berger.
Thank you, Mayor Donaldson. Dr. McDermott, I'm going to echo what my fellow council members are saying, but I'm going to add to that in that when I moved here 9 years ago, I moved here from Orange County, and came from probably one of the best healthcare systems in not California, United States. And when we first visited CHOMP, I was awed by the building's gorgeous. And to me, it meant that we're going to experience first-class healthcare. And unfortunately, when we first arrived here, first few years, we didn't. We actually experienced healthcare that was, and I'm sorry to say, is mediocre. Maybe I'm a spoiled snob. Who knows? But I have seen a total 180-degree change. Unfortunately, we spent too much time in the ER and too much time in the heart center. But the care and you can even see it in the staff. It's changed completely, and I want to thank you for that. I'm sure that you were very instrumental in that. And I was very happy to find out after an event that happened to a friend, a nearly fatal event, that you also have a catheter lab. So that's a big deal. Hopefully we never have to use it, but I really want to commend you, your staff, the whole facility at Montage for really making a tremendous change in a relatively short period of time. That was not an easy task. So thank you very much. And thanks for coming to see us.
No, thank you. I feel lucky to be member of a really great team. It takes a great team of folks to do that for our community. They really are a great team.
Councilmember Uy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Dr. McDermott, for coming over here and taking your time to educate us about CHOMP or Montage.
Yeah.
So I was just like wondering, how do we know like residents from smaller cities like Delray Oaks are really actually seeing better access to care, not just like growth in the health system overall?
Yeah. Well, one of the ways we measure access to care is you talk to members of the community, and like you said, when somebody has a need for a doctor, even in my year that I've been in this community, the number of folks that have approached me and said, I'm trying to find a primary care doctor just to start a relationship with them. And everybody is, 2 years out for any new appointment if they're even taking new patients. So we have ways where we are able to measure access to care as far as like how easy it is for a member of this community to pick up the phone and get an appointment with a new physician if they'd like to do that. That time is longer than we'd like it to be. It's a challenge we have here in this community, but it's not unique here to just Monterey. There's really a shortage of primary care physicians throughout the United States of America. And but we need to face that as a health system. One of the things we do is we make investments to try and recruit those providers here to our community to establish their practices here. And we're even looking, I talked a little bit about our Grow Your Own programs for nursing and other medical professionals. We're starting to explore whether or not we can actually train physicians who want careers in primary care right here at our hospital with a graduate medical education program. So we're starting some of the foundational steps to see if we can do a Grow Your Own program by training physicians here in our hospital as well.
Yeah, so thank you, because I was wondering, because in one of your slides, you had partnership with MPC, CSUMB for nurses, and I was wondering if for doctors as well, if you have those partnerships in other universities or training institutions.
There's actually a program with University of California, Davis, UC Davis, and UC Santa Clara, it's called the PRIME program, where students from the Central Coast here can do their first 2 years of medical school up in Sacramento, right? And then come here for their third and fourth year of clinical training. And so all the hospitals in this region, Chomp, Salinas Valley, Natividad, Dominican, everybody's participating in doing those clinical rotations so that med students can do their training. And we know when they do their training, those students, and if they train and they move on to do their residency program in the community, about 60 to 80% of them stay in the communities where they trained. And so there are partnerships with the UC system and the med school systems that we are participating in to help have those doctors do their training here in the community. So hopefully they stay and practice here when they're done.
Yes, thank you. And on a separate note, what about for people in different socioeconomic status? How really like easy for them to get access to care with Montage?
Well, all of the doctors, this is, if you're a doctor in a private independent practice, you can limit the type of patients that you see, right? You can say, I don't want to take Medi-Cal patients. I don't want to take anybody who doesn't have insurance. All of our physicians in our medical group take all payers, right? And so we make sure everybody in our community has access to that care if it's a member of our medical group, because that's part of our mission. And so we continue to work on that to make sure everybody here in our community has access to care through our health system. It's really part of our fundamental mission. Yeah.
Thank you so much
Yeah.
for that. Then. Thank you.
Okay, I'll take it out to the public. Are there any public comments or questions? Yes.
To actually have a better idea of how Montage is now, the umbrella in which all these services. I would love the opportunity to connect and see. You mentioned a lot of needs for the city like that. I'd love the opportunity. We have a drug treatment program in CSA. Fabulous. A lot of overlap, so it'd be great.
Yeah, I watched your presentation, and the social safety net that we have here in this community, we're all part of that together. And like you said, we referenced a little bit the impact that the loss of those services will have on our health system. It's real. And most of those patients, like if they lose access to your services that come into our hospital, we don't get reimbursed anything for that care. We're providing a lot of care in a high acuity and expensive environment that often is not necessary with an ounce of prevention, right? And so very happy to engage with you and talk about ways that we can work together to solve this issue.
Okay, I just want to thank you for being an integral part of the community in Delray Oaks. And that's not just with the great services that you provide. It's also that long-term vision that you talked about, the recruitment, the employment of your team, the scholarships that you're providing, and also the housing program.
Yeah.
So thank you very much
Thank
for your update and for being here with us this evening. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for your time.
All
I
right.
appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'll move on to the next item, which is our consent agenda. Are there any items that any council member would like to pull from consent?
Can I pull C1, please?
Okay, C1. Councilmember Halleck, any items you want to pull from consent?
None, Mayor.
Okay. Any items the public would want to pull from consent? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the council. Item C1, Councilmember Shirley.
Thank you, Mayor.
Mhm.
First, I want to thank the Planning Commission for reviewing our annual report. I appreciate the work that all of them did in reviewing it. One of the, and I just have some comments really. It's my first is throughout the report, it's talking about the housing resource page that was created on the website. And I was hoping that could be easier to find. I was trying to kind of click around and look for it, and I couldn't find it. And it wasn't until I actually put in housing resources page And I just think people probably wouldn't know to look for that. So if that link could be made easier, since this is part of our duty is to provide education for the public. And I know that that will eventually be translated into Spanish. So I look forward to that happening. It was also mentioned in the report that we were going to be promoting fair housing education materials in the Acorn. And I was just wondering if you could tell me when that was going to be published with that information.
Do you have any other questions?
Yeah, I have a couple.
Okay.
Okay. Is there an answer for that maybe?
We can hit all your questions at the end. I'll have the
Okay.
city manager address that.
Okay. The annual report also said that there was an update that was listing all the new ADUs, the number of ADUs that were built in 2025, and I didn't see that number. So I guess I'm curious about that. And in the report, it also says that the city drafted a reasonable accommodation ordinance. And I was wondering what the timeline for completion of that ordinance was. And that's it.
Okay. City manager.
I don't really have answers to those questions because the report is about what we accomplished last year. So I wasn't prepared for these, but if you want to send them to me, I can answer them for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, was there anything else on item C1?
Nope.
Would you like to make a motion for consent?
Sure. Yeah, I'll move all of the consent items.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, motion passes. Next is old business. There is none, so I'll move on to new business, which is consider approval of the FY 2025-26 mid-year budget adjustments, and I'll give it to Roberto.
Mayor Donaldson, members of the City Council, Robert Moreno with Regional Government Services. I'll be providing for you the mid-year budget adjustments. So this is for your consideration. This was presented to the Budget and Finance Committee. Went into it in detail and they recommended approval. So the reason for the mid-year budget adjustments is the fact that the budget was actually started about a year ago. The budget that we're in back in March, it was a plan. So typically, historically, not only the city of Delray Oaks, but all cities take a look halfway through the year to see how things are going, because the plan was developed a while back. So that's what we're doing here and addressing any changes that might be needed. So what I'm happy to report is that the staff looked at it based on revenues and expenses through December. As your staff report shows, the revenues are only being adjusted by about $1,000. So basically, the estimated revenues are holding, and that's because when the budget was developed, staff used conservative revenue estimates, which I work in a lot of other agencies. That's not the case in a lot of other agencies. There's others that are not meeting their expectations. The city has always been very conservative to make sure that it does. And like I said, I'm glad to report that at this point, it looks like everything will be on track. You'll notice in the staff report, there are some adjustments here and there, but the major revenue sources, property tax, sales tax, the airport police services, those are all on track. So the revenues are good. On the appropriation side, the expenditure side, staff is recommending an increase of about $158,000 out of the 5.7 million that's currently on the books. This is necessary primarily for two areas: police department and finance. Now, while we are requesting an increase, staff is still working to actually come under budget, which staff always has, but we just do not want to run the risk of coming in over budget. That's not good to do that. That 158,000, while there is not an increase in estimated revenues, the city does have a sufficient fund balance to cover this. And I know I talked to the chief earlier this afternoon, and they're working hard to try and keep their costs down. We believe will still come in under budget, but right now, those are the only two major changes halfway through the year: a slight increase in police and a slight increase in finance. More than happy to answer any questions you might have or go into more detail. John?
Add a little bit. Yeah. Thank you, Mayor. So just to piggyback on what Roberto was presenting, as he said, we do estimate revenues every year very conservatively because we don't want to get caught unawares and when there's a little downturn in the economy. And our budget is very tight, and you all have heard me talk about this every year. Since I've been here, the 5 years I've been here, we come in about $80,000 to $50,000 under budget every year. So we give back a surplus of $80,000 to $50,000. That's a very, very tight margin, and that takes a lot of effort to manage the finances that tightly and keep things under control. So that's why we're so conservative with our revenue estimates. And Roberto and Elizabeth and I spend a lot of time going over those and making sure that we're not our eyes aren't bigger than our stomachs, and we're not planning on bigger things than we can really get accomplished with what we've got. But we are starting to see that revenues are starting to get affected by bigger things happening in the world and the economy. And so this is the first time that we've come to you with a budget adjustment that actually utilizes fund balance to fix what technically is a structural imbalance now in our budget. It's a small one, but it is a structural imbalance that we're projecting for you. As Roberto mentioned, we will be managing to that. And so my expectation is that we will come in around budget and then we won't need to rely on that fund balance. But there are a lot of things that we've been implementing and a lot of things that stretch the staff and stretch our consultants, trying to build in new capacity and new trainings and new knowledge base in-house so that our staff can manage the city operations and not rely so heavily on consultants. But to do that requires training, and training comes from our consultants. So we budgeted consulting costs down a little bit this year. No, well, I budgeted them knowing that we might get to this point where we needed to increase expenditures in certain areas in order to continue the training that's been happening with staff and broadening that knowledge base. But some of that also is not just broadening the knowledge base, because as you see, we're one deep in every position. And so the staff are training each other on each other's roles. So when somebody goes on vacation or if somebody's sick, or if somebody moves on to another role and we have a gap in staffing, people are there to step in and fill in. And so all of that training is taking extra time and extra resources from the consultants. But also we're implementing a new budgeting software system, which is taking time, especially Roberto and Beth's time. We're implementing a new short-term rental tracking software system that takes a lot of Karen's time and Laura's time, and along with consulting time. So all of that is kind of increasing some of our expenditures for this year that weren't necessarily anticipated the time that it was going to take. But my concern is revenues. Always is, always will be. We have very narrow revenue streams. And we're a little bit fortunate right now where sales tax is going down. Property tax goes up every time you see a for sale sign in a house. That's a good thing for us because that's going to increase our property tax base. But sales tax are going down. But right now, short-term rentals are booming. And so all of our short-term rentals are booked. They're always booked. And because we're tracking better, we're actually doing better at collecting all of the TOT we're supposed to collect. And so that is making up right now the difference in the downturn in sales tax. That's very tenuous because short-term rental has a cap. We have a cap on the number of short-term rentals. We have a cap on the what they can charge. We have a cap on what our percentage of the revenues that we get from what they charge. So there's only so much that can do for us. We were also living a little large off of our interest rate that we were getting for the reserve money that we have in the bank. But as you saw, the Fed's reducing interest rates. So as interest rates go down, our revenues go down. So these are all big pressures, and these are things that we'll be talking about more as we build next year's budget, because we don't want to come back with another structural imbalance. We're situated right now with our reserves to deal with a structural imbalance and do some gap funding if we need to, but I'd rather with the help of staff and Roberto and Beth, come up with a solution and come up with a plan for how we're going to operate going into the future without a structural imbalance and without having to rely on fund balance. So stay tuned.
Okay, I'll start with, Councilmember Halleck. Questions or comments?
Thank you, Mayor Donaldson. I'll just be brief. Thank you again, Mr. Moreno, for the presentation tonight. And I love every opportunity we get to thank the city manager for your work and service to the city and the delegated duties and services of all staff members, all diligent efforts to maintain a frugal and fiscally responsible city, and to the police chief as well. And I fully support the Budget or Finance Committee's recommendation to approve FY 25-26 mid-year budget adjustments.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Shirley.
Thank you. I have no questions. All my questions were answered in the finance committee. So, again, thanks to the staff for these adjustments. It's, I appreciate the work.
Okay. Vice Mayor Berger.
Nothing, Mayor, thank you. But I again, thank you to staff. It does not go unnoticed. Thank you very much.
Okay.
And
Councilmember Hooley.
Roberto, sorry. Oh, I'm sorry, and Roberto, I apologize.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Roberto, thank you for your assistance to the city of Delray Oaks. And thanks, John, for the work as well. And I just have one question. Maybe Roberto or John can respond. So of all of these changes or adjustments that we have, which ones are really like the truly one-time cost, or which ones would carry over, and then that may affect our next year's budget?
Yeah, I'll go first, and then John, if you can
Yeah.
jump in. So on the police department, to me, this is just a one-time adjustment. The police department is short-staffed. That's why we're having, it's more money for overtime and the like. As soon as I get fully staffed, I believe that next year, we should have this year some savings in salaries, but we don't want to count on that just yet. There should be savings. Next year, if you're fully staffed, the overtime should not exist there. Also on the finance side, like John said, this is kind of an implementation year for our new budget software and some additional training. That should go away next year.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I would hit on. Just to say that in in every law enforcement agency that I'm aware of and that I've been that I've known of or worked with, recruitment and retention is really, really difficult, and especially recruitment. So when I was at the sheriff's office, when we would do a recruitment, we would expect to get 1 to 2% success rate out of every recruitment. So out of 300 applicants, we would get 3 that we might send to the academy. So that's how difficult it is. It hasn't gotten any easier. Every law enforcement jurisdiction around us is dealing with staffing shortages, and we're further hampered by difficulty with recruitment because we are by far the lowest paying police department in the region. We provide a lot of other benefits to our staff to come here. Our police officers get training that they'll never get at another, well, not never, that they won't get for a long time at other jurisdictions. So they learn different policing aspects here a lot faster than they would at different jurisdictions. That's good for them. It's an enticement for them to come. It's also a struggle for us because then other jurisdictions want them after they get the training. So, but it's something that we struggle with, is trying to keep up with that. So overtime does get impacted. The sheriff, the sheriff left. The chief, see, I switched right back into my old role. The chief could go on probably for an hour and explain to you about staffing minimums that we have to meet and the difficulty of making sure that we have coverage 24/7 and all of that. But yeah, it's difficult, and it's something I know it keeps the chief up at night, the overtime costs, and so we're always looking at that.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much, John and Roberto. And that's all, Mr. Mayor. Thank
Okay.
you.
Roberto, do you have more?
Well, that's it for this, but if I may, since I'm here already, I work with other smaller agencies, small communities, And I can tell you two, they're going to remain unnamed, but I have two other communities that I work with that both started the year with operating deficits. The council's approved operating deficits of $500,000 to begin with. Now they're up to about $1 million as a result of mid-year budget adjustments. So, you are to be commended for being conservative and the approach that you've taken. Others have said, no, we need to spend it, but you're spending out of one-time money, which is not a good thing to do. And that's one thing the city's always been good at, is try not to utilize that one-time money. So no, you're definitely to be commended for that. Like I said, you only see what you see here in Delray Oaks. I see what goes on in other agencies, and city's doing quite well in that regard.
Okay, thank you for that, Robert. City Manager, did you have anything more to add?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Okay, I'll take it out to the public. Any public comments, questions? Okay, Roberto, thank you for those comments about the city and our approach that we take. And yeah, I too want to thank the staff, city manager specifically for the conservative approach that you've taken, and all the staff work, Karen, Laura, Stacy, Roberto, Elizabeth. Thank you for everything that you do. And I know one of the issues is within the police force, and I also want to thank Chief Berkwin. I mean, the city manager is not the only one that takes the conservative approach. He does too. And he is doing everything he can, not only to fill the vacancies that we have, but also operate efficiently and conservatively with the budget. So thank you for that. The other thing too I want to point out is that some of the expenditures, implementing software and training, that's an investment in our future, and that's going to pay huge dividends down the road. And, those are costs that we have to bear now, but definitely will bear fruit later on. Okay, so with that, I'll accept the motion.
Move to approve the approval of the FY 25-26 mid-year budget adjustment.
Is there a
I second. I second.
Okay, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. I'll move on to the next item, which is to consider approval of resolution 2026-04 to authorize the city manager to sign a contract with Coastal Paving to perform ADA sidewalk improvements in the park. City manager.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to try to share my screen. There we go. This isn't going to be very pretty because I didn't really have time to put this together. But I just wanted to show you all. So we got, so every year, all of the different jurisdictions get community development block grant funding. And there's a kind of a competitive process. We're separate from that. We get a set amount for every 3-year cycle. So for this 3-year cycle, we have $90,000. Historically, the city, it's not a lot of money. So historically, the city has used that for ADA improvement projects. The new bathrooms that we have were done with the last cycle. So this year we were initially, the money was going to be split between improving the ADA accessible parking in the city hall parking lot, and then also with some improvements down in the park. But because of timing and needing to get the project done by a certain time, we switched it all down to the park, because with everything happening with FORTAG and all the work that you see out there that you all had to negotiate to get into the parking lot for tonight's meeting, we weren't able to do the parking lot and do those projects. So we switched the money down to the park. So what we're going to do down there is put in some additional ADA accessible sidewalks, for lack of a better term, that will connect to some of our facilities in the park, and will connect to the new FORTAG trail, and then expand some of the areas that serve everyone else but aren't particularly accessible for folks in wheelchairs. So you can't really see on this. I'm just going to show you pictures. You all know the park, but so this is is this going to switch? No, I need to stop sharing. Sorry. See, this is why Laura doesn't let me run the meetings.
Laura, the rescue.
Yeah, well, Oh, there we go. I just was stuck. So I need to share. I didn't realize I was going to have to share these one at a time. Everybody knows the park, right? I don't think I'm going to go through and have to do that every time to show every picture, but I just want to show what we're looking at, and you'll see when the work starts in a month or so. So right now we have the bocce courts. We put the bocce courts in about 3 or 4 years ago, and they're really popular and everybody uses them. But as you can see, there's no accessibility for folks in wheelchairs or with other uh, needs to get to areas. We have a new bench there. It's on its own little concrete pad. So with this plan, we would have a connecting sidewalk from the Fortag Trail and then a concrete pad there in front of the bocce courts, so that everybody can access the courts with their families and have fun. Similar, we have the barbecue pits, and those are really popular for being rented out on the weekends for parties and such. They have very small pads next to them that really service just whoever's barbecuing, whoever's cooking. So we want to expand those pads so that picnic tables can be brought up to them, and there can be access to those. And then the final thing would be we already had, well, two things. So the gazebo, everybody's familiar with the gazebo. When we redid the parking lot, there's a gap between the curb of the parking lot and the concrete pad of the gazebo, and that's become a really bad tripping hazard. So we're going to fill that in and expand the pad of the gazebo so that the wheelchair access point is right there, the ADA parking is right there, so then people can access the gazebo and actually come into the gazebo. And then we extended that from the parking lot to the new play structure, an ADA accessible sidewalk. And then we're going to connect that, which will go straight past the new basketball court and connect into the basketball court and connect out to the Fortag Trail. So that's the whole project that we got. Sherman Lowe, our city engineer, did the engineer's estimate, the bid packet. We got the bid results back. We had 6 responsible bidders, and the lowest bidder was, you'll see in your packet, is Coastal Paving. And so that's the project that we're recommending and the contract to get it done.
All right, thank you, sir. I'll start with Councilmember Howard.
Thank you, Mayor Donaldson. I love everything about it. It's important to remember that the American Disability Act protects all persons with disabilities, not just those with mobility constraints, but hearing and visually impaired and such. And I love the idea of creating greater accessibility to our beautiful park. One item that just popped into my mind when you mentioned greater accessibility to the picnic areas is perhaps implementing wheelchair accessible dining areas where needed, providing clearance below rather than your standard picnic tables with benches butterflied on either side. But so if there's room for design improvements, then perhaps you'd consider that. And otherwise, yeah, I love it. It's great. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Shirley.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I'm in support. I think this is a great use of this fund. I'm happy to see that, I think these improvements will be, well used and much appreciated on our community. So, thank you.
Okay. Vice Member Berger. Vice Mayor Berger. Sorry about that.
We're all members here.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. This is great. This is fantastic. And I have a couple of questions. I mean, the city manager could help with this. So we have a $90,000 grant. So there'll be roughly a $20,000 surplus in that from that grant. Can I ask what happens with that money? That's question number one, if you'd like to answer that.
Yeah, so there's a contingency built into this contract. And then as Councilmember Halleck pointed out, there are some opportunities to expand some of the components that we're building.
Oh,
and
good.
so Ron is working with Coastal on and with Sherman on what would be good additions, and then we'll bring that back to you. Probably we'll, with all of your consensus right now, I'll approve those, and then we'll bring them back to you at a later date for you to ratify the decision that I made to get those things done.
That's great news.
Yeah.
Maybe we can do something about the front stoop of Old Town Hall if that's crumbling.
Possibly. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, any other questions?
No, no, thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Louie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, John, for this project. I fully support this. And, but I just have a question about the grant or the funding. Are there any risks, over this grant funding not being granted? You know, and then, that would leave the city, like, you know, paying for the cost of this project.
No, I mean, Karen understands this grant better than I do, but the only real risk is that we don't get this done in time, and that's why we're moving quickly now to get it done.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, that's good. So I was just wondering.
Yeah.
Because with all of these funding challenges right now from different sources, so they might pull it or, but anyway.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's safe, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
we should spend it.
Right.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, I'll take it out to the public. Any public comments on this particular item? Okay, seeing none, yeah, I just echo the comments of my fellow council members, and I'll accept the motion.
So
I'd like to-
moved.
Oh,
Okay, we have a motion. Do we
I'll
have a
second that.
a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion passes. Staff reports and correspondence are in the packet. And our next meeting date is Tuesday, April 28th at 6 PM. With that, we are adjourned.